Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I wasn't sure of and I didn't know much about at the beginning of my investment journey. And I think there are a lot of people out there, those who would like to know more about the dividends and the dividend stocks that are out there and how they really work. So let's start with the question, can we live off dividends? I'm going to jump right into the answer because I think it's important to, if I throw a question out there, it's important for you guys to get an answer right away. So I'm going to answer with a little bit of research that I have done. According to S&P 500 average dividend yield rate, that's based on all of the stocks that pay dividend, the average rate is 1.9%. So if you have $2 million in your portfolio, you will get $38,000 in dividends every year. So simple answer is no. There are the average North American, may that be American or Canadian, the stats that we have, nobody in their early ages has that big an amount to get a dividend that they can live off. Yes, that can be an end goal. That you can live off a dividend if you have a $2 million portfolio when you're going to retire, and you will certainly be in a lower tax bracket. You will not be getting any income from anywhere else, so the dividend income will be taxed in a lower tax bracket at the time. So it can be an end goal, but in the beginning of investment journey, I don't think it's possible to live off the dividends, because you won't be making that much dividend if you have only 10,000 in your portfolio. So the question is, what exactly is a dividend? This is the question that I always had. I don't understand why some companies pay dividends, some companies don't pay dividends. We will talk about that in this presentation as well. But let's talk about what exactly is a dividend. So a dividend is a thank you from the company that you own. So if you have a stock that you have a stock with the TD Bank or any bank, they give out dividends from their income. So the company has a balance sheet and company has an income statement. So people are out there, as I am a chartered professional accountant, so I know the income from the year goes into the balance sheet, and there it sits on the balance sheet as a retained earnings. So company can choose to do few things with that earnings. They can take that earnings and use it to expand more, or they could take that earnings and give out in the form of dividends to their shareholders as a thank you for giving them the money during the startup or when they needed the money to grow. So it's just really it's just really a little bit of a money that you'll get based on how much stocks you have for a particular company as a thank you from the company. How often is dividend paid? So dividend normally are paid quarterly. There are some companies out there that pay monthly dividends, or there are some companies out there that pay yearly dividends, but most of the time, generally, they are paid out quarterly, so that means 4 times in the year. But the dividend is one set amount. So they'll declare, for example, $4 dividend, and it will be paid out quarterly. So $1 each, $1 per stock each quarter, and so that'll be $4. So there are three key dates to remember. The date when they announce the dividends, that is the date when they say, okay, this year we're gonna give out $4 in dividends. And then there is a date which is called the X date, I believe, is the date when somebody needs to have that dividend in their portfolio, or they have that stock in their portfolio in order for you to receive that dividend. So if you sell your stock anytime in between the declaration date when they declare dividend and the X date, the date when you have to have the dividend, you will not get the dividend. And the third date is obviously the date when they pay out the dividend. You will, in my investing career, I've heard about this dividend yield rate. So I want to explain this dividend yield a little bit more. Dividend yield rate is basically annual dividend per share divided over the current share price. An example is if company is declaring $4 dividend and the share price for that stock is, or the share price for the share is $100, the dividend yield rate is 4%. So do all the companies issue dividends? The answer is no. Not all the companies issue dividends. There are companies that are called the growth companies that don't issue dividends, and there are some mature companies. There are mature companies though who issue dividends, and there can be some growth companies that issue a little bit of dividend. It really depends. So, what is a growth company? So, companies like Amazon, Facebook, Alphabet, Berkshire Hathaway, all these companies. There's a very interesting. I was just listening to this morning about Warren Buffett, the CEO and founder of Berkshire Hathaway. How it doesn't seem like he's against dividends, but Berkshire Hathaway, it's one of the most well managed company out there. Stock in upwards of, I don't know, $350,000 US at the time, right now probably, and they have never paid out dividend. So is it still a growth company? It's the Berkshire Hathaway has been in the industry for a long time, but are they really growth industry? It's debatable, but maybe they have things that they plan to do. So basically, a growth company is a company those who is still in the growth stage. For example, Amazon. We have over the years, for last 10 to 15 years, we have seen Amazon grow quite a bit. They're expanding. They're opening up huge warehouses all across North America and probably all across the world. So they need that money. They need that money to expand. Facebook, Google, and Microsoft, all these companies, they don't give out dividends because they obviously want to come up with newer, better products, expand their companies. It doesn't mean that as an investor you're losing anything. You're not losing. If they're not giving out dividends, the payback is coming from the growth in your stock price. So they are using that money, but they're using that money to expand the company, which in turn increases their stock price. So you are still gaining, you're just not getting money in the dividends. So mature companies, for example, Coca-Cola, Colgate, AT&T, Ford, Pfizer, all these companies, they give out consistent dividends quarterly, yearly, and the reason is, example for Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has been around for ages, but they don't feel like there isn't a really good value for the money that they get. They're fully established. They have set of product lines that they've been focusing on, and they don't feel, the company management doesn't feel that they could do anything more with the money that they're getting. So they choose to give out the portion of the income that they make, the retained earnings that I talked about earlier in my presentation. They take the retained earnings and they distribute out to its shareholders as a thank you. So why do companies pay dividends? So somebody asked me, so why do they want to give out dividends? It doesn't make any sense. Well, there is a reason. So all these companies out there, those who want to attract investors, giving out dividends, it just gives investors think of dividend as an interest on your savings. So it is actually just like interest that you're getting on your stocks. So it attracts investors. Companies have large cash flows, and I was reading somewhere that Apple is sitting on close to 3.5 billion, maybe $5 billion just in cash. Obviously, they have plans with that 3 billion, $5 billion, to open up a new plant somewhere else in the world, coming up with a new product, research and development. But for some of these other companies, they bring in a lot of this cash, and the cash just sits in an account. What is it doing? It's not doing anything. So they give it out to their shareholders so they can be happy. Some securities like real estate, they are they are forced to pay out dividends. I believe the number is around 90% of their income has to be given out in shareholders. They're called distributions, but people call them dividends. They are dividends. The other reason why companies want to give out dividends is because consistent dividends demonstrate solid and reliable earnings. So a solid and reliable earnings will give faith to the investors that this company is not going to be volatile. You know, in my last slide, you saw AT&T. AT&T in last few years, their stock kind of took a plunge because they previously historically have been giving out dividends, and they've been increasing their dividends, which wasn't sustainable. You can't always give out more dividend, even if you don't have any plans. But their stock took a plunge, and the reason of that was because they the dividends that they were giving out, uh, it wasn't sustainable for them. So that's what dividend is. Um, there are a lot of dividend paying stocks. They can be good. As at the beginning of our presentation, I mentioned that if you're a young investor in your 20s, in your 30s, and you're just starting out investing, div- don't shy away from dividend paying stocks, because there are a lot of good dividend paying stocks that you can have in your portfolio. But as a young investor, as I mentioned, I'm 37. I'm fairly young, not that young, but fairly young, and my goal is for growth. So I'm looking for growth companies, or in the growth stage. They sit on, even though they don't give any dividends out, but they sit on a lot of cash, and they have good business plan to grow the company, which in turn I will not receive the dividends, but I will receive the return will be the growth in my stock. So if you like the information that I have presented to you today, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to my channel. Uh, please share my video with your friends. Give me tips of how I can improve myself in the presentation, how I can improve myself delivering the content. I do research my stuff quite a bit. If there's anything that I have missed, or the and everything that's been presented in this presentation is my personal opinion. So if you know more than me in the dividends, please put that in the comment section. uh, I always read my comments. Again, thank you so much for listening. Have a good day.